Hi, Unpain Clinic community. Today I have a very special guest, Jodi Harty. It's a dear friend of mine. It's a team member of Unpain Clinic. But despite the fact that she is so connected with us, I wanted to bring her in this show because her story is so special and she is somebody very special to us. So I wanted to share this with the whole our community. So welcome, Jodi, to Unpain Clinic Podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So who are you, Jodi?
That's a loaded question. I'm a lot of things. I'm a mom of three. I am an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed since 2003, so I'm no spring chicken. I'm old. Um, I live in the Edmonton area as I do contract out for Unpain, doing massage therapy and their advanced graceful aging treatments. Um, I am board certified for health and life coaching and board certified as a hormonal and drugless practitioner coach. So I wear many hats.
Oh my God. Yes, you do. And all these hats, they're beautiful. They go they go with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so I know you wanted like what you share to the world, like your experience. It's I don't know, I don't have word to explain, but in 2018 your life experienced a major turn.
Yeah.
What happened?
So I I had a 15-year career of massage therapy. I was booked 3 months in advance. I loved what I did with helping people heal their bodies, get rid of pain. And then in 2018, everything stopped. So I was no longer a mom. I was no longer a wife. My body was not mine. And I didn't even have a home. I um, actually was in a head-on collision, highway speed. Somebody came into my lane as my youngest daughter and I were going to see my husband, who was 4 hours away in Fort McMurray, and we never made it. 2 hours before we got to our destination, um, another guy hit us head on. So I don't remember the collision. I do remember waking up and begging for somebody to call my husband, and I must have given someone his number because I remember hearing Mike's voice. And I asked if it was Saturday, and he said yes. And I asked if we were coming to see him, and I said yes. And then I said, Mike, I can't hear Marley. I don't know how she is. I can't hear Marley. And that was the last thing that I remember from that day. 3 days later, after me waking up multiple times, it was finally decided that I be told. And I was told that another driver came into my lane, hit us head on, and that Marley had died instantly in the collision. My steering wheel broke right off, so otherwise my arm would have been shattered from the shoulder on. Instead, I was degloved from the collision. If you can imagine being on the brake pedal and then just like an accordion being slammed shut. This is what you're seeing here. So my femoral head nearly snapped right off from my femur. I had external structures screwed into me so that I could get stronger to be able to handle the surgeries that I would need. So my ankles, if you can imagine my toes up at my tibia, that's where they were. And then they started putting me together. So you can see my talus plate. You can see a rod that they placed. These are both my femurs, the left and the right. So I have multiple fractures, multiple complete breaks. This is considered a shatter. So not only did I have to heal from the shatters, but I had to heal from the external fixtures that they did to keep me stable. And then I had to heal from the procedures that they did to put me back together. And this second x-ray that you're seeing is 3 months after the collision. So I am still very much broken. And I was given walking orders at this time. So for 3 months, I was non-weight bearing. I had multiple compound fractures in my tibias and fibulas. And now I am titanium from the hips down. I deal with chronic pain every day, but I also know how to minimize that pain every day. I should not be walking without a cane. I should not be walking without a walker. And I contribute Unpain to why I'm able to do those things every day. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen.
Honestly, in my experience, I never seen anybody yet recover physically, spiritually, like what I can see, and professionally like you.
Thank
So
you.
you're truly a real phoenix that I know. Okay, and
That's
I've
why
been through
it's
a
my
lot of things.
logo.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Why it's my logo? Because there was
Exactly.
not one brick left on that foundation of my life left standing, not one.
So when did you decided that you weren't going to let this define or defeat you?
I think I had to decide that very early on. And the reason why is because I did want to see Marley one last time. And that meant that I had to get out of the hospital bed within 2 weeks of the collision. So I went from the ICU, being in there for a week, and then transferred to the trauma ward and starting to practice sitting up. Because I was flat on my back until then. But because I wanted to see her, and be able to say goodbye to her, that was a really big driving force. And to give everyone an idea of what the pain levels were. So up until this point, people couldn't even touch my hospital bed without me being able to feel the vibration of their breathing through my bones. So even if you just touched me slightly, it was extremely painful for me. So nobody was allowed to touch me. Nobody was allowed to touch the bed, because I could feel that vibration. But another big factor was I had 2 other girls who had just lost a sister who didn't know if their mom was going to make it. And they instantly lost their family home because I had 75% custody of them, and they instantly went to go live with their dad. So they had nobody, no familiar things, no 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom apartment. So I wanted to be able to hug them. I wanted them to be able to, cry on my lap and, for me to comfort them. And as a mom, I was not going home with them at the end of every visit. I was not the one to tell them that their younger sister would never be coming home. That was shattering as a mom. And so I became very determined to do whatever it took to get me out of that hospital bed so I could get back to my 2 other girls.
Wow. So what um because so many people, that live in pain, they experience, accidents, traumas.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody understands that until you experience it. Like we are
Yeah,
all
no,
practitioners, like we help people, we try to relate and understand, but when you feel the pain, it's completely different.
Hmm.
So, what was the hardest part of your recovery? Was it like the physical, the emotional, or or the spiritual?
I think I was really blessed because I was on so many narcotics. So I was on ketamine, I was
Okay.
on antipsychotics, I was on 76 milligrams of opioids, which if you know the math, I've never done the math because I'm not a math person. I do girl math. But 3 milligrams of opioids is like 5 milligrams of morphine. And I was on 76 at the beginning. So I was really numbed out emotionally. I did not feel the grief like I did later. And this was a blessing because then I could focus on the physical recovery. And they said that it would be 80% mental, 20% physical. And I didn't believe them. I was like, that's
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm like, you're not in this body. I am.
yeah,
This is more than 20%.
yeah, yeah,
um, but it was showing up every day because I was living in a rehab hospital for 3 months and it was doing physio 5 days a week every day. It was deciding to do occupational therapy along with the physio so that my upper body could get stronger so that when I did get walking orders, even if I couldn't put weight on my legs, even if I was done, I could still hold myself up and do the motion because
yeah,
motion accelerates healing. And I knew that in my massage career of 15 years that the body does not heal if it does not move. So I could have chosen to stay in my hospital bed. I could have chosen not to do the work physically because if freaking hurt your ass,
yeah,
like, like you go to like not having anybody touch you because the vibration of it is felt through your shattered bones. And yet you still show up to physio and they ask you to move your leg and you know physically you cannot move your leg because it hurts, but you still try. You still do what you're told. And I think that's where a lot of people go off the rails is they don't just do what they're told.
yeah,
So the hardest part of the recovery was just actually showing up in the beginning of like, this is gonna suck rocks and
yeah,
it's gonna
yeah.
hurt and you're in pain 24/7 and you know what you're about to do is gonna cause you even more pain and you're gonna chase it and you're gonna have to get on top of it again. But you do it anyway.
So, did you ever feel giving up? And what helped you kind of keep going every day?
Every day. Every day I was like, don't want to do it, not doing it. And every day, Summer and River, my two other girls, came to my mind. Every day, it was like, how do I want them to see me? It wasn't just about getting back to them, although that was 80% of it. It was like, how do I show up for them and how do I show them how to get back up in their life when everything falls apart? And for me, I mean, not everybody's going to experience what I did, where there is nothing left from your life and you have to literally rebuild from the ground up. You know, I've been through house fires, I've been through house floods, I've been through divorce. All of those are catastrophic on their own.
Yeah, yeah,
And when we're talking about just those individual things or losing a parent or losing a child just on their own, it's life changing. But how do you want to show up? How do you want the world to see you? How do you want your family to see you? How do you want your kids to see you? Because I could have very easily sat back in that hospital bed, kicked everybody out, and nobody would have blamed me. Everybody would have said she has 100% every right to do that. And I would not have been held accountable for anything.
yeah.
So how do you want to show up? So every day I felt like quitting. Every day I felt like just staying in my hospital bed because that's where I felt less pain.
Yeah, yeah,
But then
yeah.
was I showing up for myself? Was I showing up for myself? Was I showing up for my kids? Was I showing up for my future?
And I know this even from personal life because uh, and that's why I said initially you're the only real phoenix, that I know personally. I've been through the war, you know,
Yeah.
I've experienced all kinds of things, but when you have your health, when you have your body, you can fight with those external factors,
Yeah.
and you can fail, you can achieve. But to do it when you're like completely broken, in pain, losing everything, this is something that, as I said, I never seen before. And I want everybody, if there's anybody around the world in this situation, or like even way lighter, it's based on what you're telling me and based on what I know, it's still you. It's you have to show up, you have
Yeah.
to do it. It's your own responsibility, and it's you that dictate the future, or what happens. And I think if you have that spark, then the body mobilizes everything, the universe, the faith, whatever it is out there, and helps you.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, for those that have lost a child or for those who have gone through spousal betrayal, you instantly, they've proven this under MRIs, receive brain damage. So you are dealing with a traumatic brain injury the moment that that happens to you. So it's not only a matter of like deciding that this is you and who you want, but it's also being able to navigate the new you, because you are not the same
Yes.
because of that damage, that brain damage that has occurred. And it takes a long time to rewire itself. And that's why they say, like, don't make any major decisions when a life crisis happens, right?
Yeah.
Because they know that the brain is not firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
They know that you are brain damaged. So I love that we're in Canada and that I had universal healthcare and I didn't have to worry about how I was going to pay my bills or how I was going to like pay for my therapies, because as long as I was in the hospital, I was taken care of.
Yeah.
I had all of Alberta health system behind me, psychologists, so, uh, social workers, grief counselors, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, doctors, nurses. Like, I had a whole team behind me, and so many people that experience something like this, like where they lose a child or spousal betrayal, they don't have that. And so
Yeah.
even just acknowledging like, hey, I got a brain injury. I need help, right? And getting those resources, looking for those resources, connecting with the people that can help you, because you do need help, and being able to recognize that and ask for it is another huge thing in recovery.
So because uh, like nothing compares to like the level of damage, injury that you have. And even yourself and myself, and even at the clinic, we see, people with that deal, with chronic lower back pain, shoulder
Mhm.
pains, and all that. So you shared a lot in terms of like it's you that you have to believe, you have, to try to test. Did you had any timeline? Did you had any vision where you were at that 0 point, like how long it's gonna take, or did you had any clue, or what did you learn throughout the whole process if you look back?
That I was really deluded. I argued with the doctors and nurses, told them that I was going to be walking again in 6 weeks because I was a massage therapist. I knew how long broken bones take to heal, and like, it's fine. So I had a lot of delusions. I didn't understand how bad I was. So when And nobody would get, the only thing that they would give me is like 10 months. You're going to be here for 10 months. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to be here for 10 months looking at these walls. As I got off the narcotics, as I was able to understand exactly what happened to me and see what happened to me, because they didn't want to show me. They didn't want to show me my x-rays, because normally when a lay person sees what's happened to them, then they come up with all the reasons why they can't do something, like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that because I broke it and it hurts, right? Where with my education, I needed to be able to see what physically happened to me so I could understand why it was taking so long. And I actually met somebody who was 7 years older than me. So I'm 45. She's 7 years older than me. She broke her tibia, which is her shin bone, and she broke her femur, which is her thigh bone. And she is now living permanently in a old folks home, assisted living, because they will never walk again. And this is where I'm like shaking my head going like, I want to see your x-rays, girl.
Yeah.
Oh, like why? And this was just last December. You know,
My
we're in March right now, and they're telling her that she'll never walk again. And I know that I'm the anomaly, and I thank Unpain for this, because I have complete bone healing in my femur. I have full blood flow restored to my femurs. They never expect your femurs to fully heal when you have breaks like I did. That you are always fractured in some way. And that's not the case for me. And I do believe that that was the flash wave that we started right away. As soon as I got a day pass, I was coming to see you.
Yeah.
And we were doing flash wave. We were stimulating those stem cells every single weekend for a while. I was coming to see you. Every time I got a pass, I was coming to see you. So many people don't know what the resources are out there. And that's really sad, because so many, like, the medical profession is not allowed to talk about them, and they're not educated on them. And so it's really important to build your team. Build your team of medical providers, because they put me together. They saved my life. They saved my legs. Like, medical providers have a place. I would not have my legs 50 years from now or ago.
Yeah.
Had medical advances not happened. Like, I have mad respect for them. But there is so many other modalities out there that are not being talked about, that are not being taught, that are not being educated, that can, like, give people. I can't even imagine living in an old folks home permanently when
Yeah.
I was 38. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. I know.
No.
I would take you to my home. I would not allow you to stay there.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember. It's good. It's good that, because see, let's talk actually. And you brought up, shockwave that we did. So let's start probably from that, because you were at Glenrose Hospital. So typically, so what did they do in the Glenrose Hospital? How did you feel, like with a shockwave in that acute phase? So then I'll add a little bit more things, and then I want to actually we want to share, because there are people out there that now they can have access to those things, what else you have done, and just like how you have gotten to this level of recovery,
Mhm.
like in this period of time. Like, we need to share those tools, those techniques with everybody. So
Okay.
Glen, what did Glen Rose did, like in the initial phase?
So Glenrose is one of the best rehab facilities that Western Canada has. So I was sent to one of the best places. And every day I went to physio 5 days a week. Every day I went to occupational therapy 5 days a week. And when I was transferred there, I needed 3 people to move me from my bed to my wheelchair. Now, because I'm very prideful, okay, let me lay the land here, okay? I know what it's like to need somebody to take me to the bathroom and clean me up afterwards. I know what it's like to have 3 nurses in the shower with you because you can't do it yourself. And let me tell you, they're not gentle on those bits because then they can be accused of things. So they're get in, get out, and it's very humbling to have somebody sitting outside the bathroom door when you're doing your business and then having them clean you up. I never want to go back there. So for me, recovery was a non-negotiable. I know what it's like being in a wheelchair. And I wanted to be as independent as possible. I didn't want somebody taking me to the shower. I didn't want somebody taking me to the bathroom. So I practiced every day getting in and out of the hospital bed to the wheelchair. So yeah, physio was an hour a day. Occupational therapy was an hour a day. But then what was I doing in between those times? Well, sleep. Sleep is crucial for recovery. The body cannot heal if you're not sleeping. Secondly, practicing movement. So I remember they gave me 2-pound weights and I was pissed because I was a massage therapist and you're giving me a 2-pound weight. Like, no, but it was movement. So I did it. I lifted those 2-pound weights and I cursed every moment of it, but I did it because that's what I was told. And part of it is just doing what you're told, regardless of how you feel about it, right? Like feelings have no space for when you're in that type of recovery. I was rehabbing with a lot of stroke patients, and a lot of the times it was just take things off the shelf, put them on the table. And you're doing this 20 different times. And I sat there doing it and I was watching these patients and I was like, this is the importance of functional movement.
Yeah.
This is the importance of being able, because like as I get older, I want to be able to take those glasses off the shelf. I want to be able to put those plates away up in the cupboard. And if I stop moving, that's huge. Then I'm in the hospital like them.
Yeah.
And then I was on the amputee ward because I couldn't use my legs. That was the best place for me because I couldn't use my legs. And doing physio with them and watching them get mad with the physiotherapist or the physio assistant saying, I can't do this, and like getting yelling or like crying and having breakdowns when they say, okay, so we want you to activate this muscle so that you can do this and do that. And I understood the patient's frustration because they did not know their anatomy. They did not know how to localize the muscle that they were being asked to do because it's just a leg. And how are they supposed to stand up with one leg? They didn't know that, okay, I gotta have a really strong core and I gotta contract my abdominals, I gotta squeeze my glutes, I gotta tighten my quads, I gotta straighten my leg, and I gotta push up. Like that's how intricate I took my recovery because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to stand up for the very first time, and I'm going to have my core really, really stable in order to support me, and I'm going to have these arms even beefier than I am. So what I did was I practiced going in my wheelchair and just rolling up and down. So this is another thing. So when you're an elderly person and you've lost range of motion in your shoulders, you can only move so far and you can't get motion. So I was watching them inch by inch by inch. And I remember this one lady I came up across and I'm like, bring your shoulders back and push. Because it literally was taking her an hour just to go get breakfast. And by then it was over. And when you're in the rehab hospital, you don't have nurses helping you wheel because they want you doing it yourself because that's part of physio. And that's another thing that I had to learn over time. And time is relative. My recovery, we're 7 years and now will never be over. So whether you've had a surgery, back surgery, whether you've had a shoulder surgery, whether you've had a hip surgery, whether you've had a collision and you're healing, recovery is for life because the body will always want to revert back and protect. So everything I do, even to this day, and let me tell you, Ren, it's exhausting. And there are days where I'm like, screw it, not doing it, right? But doing the flight of stairs is recovery. Doing yoga and Pilates is part of my recovery. Going swimming is part of my recovery. Walking my dog 2 times a day is part of my recovery, because if I don't move, my pain will
Yeah.
come back. I will deteriorate. Oh, look, it's got bubbles. My pain will come back, and then my body will deteriorate back to what it was. So recovery is lifetime. And what are
Yep.
you doing to maintain what you have, or to even up level what you have? So that question of like, what was it like day to day? It was a conscious choice, and it was every day, and just doing the things and making sure that I made this body as well oiled machine. And I knew at that time from my education as well is that certain foods will cause pain.
Yeah.
So I even managed my nutrition to warrant so that like my food was not causing pain, right? I knew what foods would cause pain in the body. I knew what would trigger even a flare up, and I avoided them because I could not experience more pain than what I was in. There was no way. And if there's an ability for me to lower it, yeah, for sure I was going to lower it. So the first year was just physical recovery. There wasn't much room for grief. There wasn't much room for like anything else. It was just physical recovery. And one thing I want to make clear is if you're in the hospital and you're doing rehab and stuff, 80% of people when they're released will regress 50% because they do not continue their therapies once they leave the hospital.
Yes.
So I made sure that once I was released that I went to physio 5 times a week, that I was doing pool therapy, because when you do pool therapy, you get better 50% faster because you take gravity out of the equation. I was getting the counseling. I was doing chiropractic. I was seeing flash wave and shock wave. Once I was strong enough, I went into rehabilitation yoga because like I had no body awareness. You told me to raise my legs straight and it was off in left field. So I needed to be able to like get this body back to functional movement again. And then as I got better, I added more. I added functional TRX, for rebuilding the body, right? So every day was something therapeutic. It wasn't just I was released from the hospital and I was done. It was for the next 3 years until well, actually 2, because the collision happened in 18. For the next 2 years, everything was at least one modality of physical healing, mental healing, or more, right?
Yeah. And so we had the team bonding. We had it like what, 2 or 3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
and we have this robot trainer from Switzerland where you can actually exercise for lower body like legs.
yeah.
And we played the game. We were competing skiing, so you can actually play games there, and you won. Like you beat all of us.
Which I was
so
surprised.
so
I
so
was
even
surprised.
scientifically we can prove it, like despite the x-rays, like how much healing it's been and all that, it's like
Yeah.
functionally your legs have recovered, and like all the neuromuscular system. So Judy, I because we uh, like everybody knows Unpain Clinic for Shockwave, so I just want to go and get a bit more details here, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna move to different things.
Yeah.
So I know you had Shockwave before the accident, like in the past. And when
Hmm.
I told you, because this is something that, especially in North America, because Shockwave is not regulated, they first, many practitioners have no clue what Shockwave is.
Hmm.
Second, they don't know the difference between Shockwave devices. Third thing is like almost like I would say easy 90%. They don't even have training on that, how to use it and all that. So when I
Hmm.
told you, Jody, we need to do shockwave as soon as possible, if you remember. What did you think at that time?
What I thought was, "S you, Uran."
Yeah.
I'm not doing that to some of these freaking bones. Are you freaking kidding me? But you assured me that it would not hurt and that there was a difference between shockwaves and that you were just going to treat the scar tissue to stimulate the stem cells. And actually that first experience, it was warm. It was nice. It was not the clubbing a baby seal over and
Yeah.
over and over again, right? It was really nice. Um, and I think that's the difference between what Unpain does and what other clinics with shockwaves do is even a chiropractor asked me, he's like, why are you getting shockwave done if you've got shattered bones? And I'm like, to help with stem cells and healing.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
But they don't know. They don't know that you actually don't have to like pummel. You
Yes.
treat differently at different phases of recovery.
Yeah.
So I was not getting the pummeled, clubbing a baby seal,
Yes.
jackhammer to the bone,
Jackhammer. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like I was getting nice.
Yeah.
I'll do that treatment all day long. And then as I healed, then as the x-rays started showing that like, oh my goodness, she's got full blood flow restored. Oh my goodness. She's she's physically healed. Like these are
Yeah.
not broken anymore. Like you can see where it was broken
Yes.
because of the calcium
Yeah.
and stuff. But I'm physically healed. Then we started doing more intensive treatments. Then we started getting into the muscles. Then we started doing like all of the things, right? So there is definitely a difference between what Unpain does and then what other clinics does. And I want to also, because this is a conversation I have with clients all the time, is when you go to Joe Blow Physio, okay, they will treat the shoulder because that's where you have pain. And then that's it. When you come to Unpain, if you've got pain in your shoulder, they're going to treat your neck. They're going to treat your chest. They're going to treat the back. They're going to maybe treat some ribs, right?
Yeah.
Because everything is interrelated. They might even treat the arm where you had
Yes.
surgery and like the scar
Yeah.
tissue was pulling down, right? So it is a comprehensive treatment. They don't just band-aid the treatment. They customize it to what you need and what other areas are being affected so that you can actually have maximum healing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Well,
I mean, it's true because even with your case, like shockwave, it's something that it's the strongest therapy in medicine for non-invasive regeneration. What it does, it stimulates your body to do the healing. So it's going to activate, stimulate new blood vessel growth, activate stem cells, growth factors. But then it's your body doing the repair. So it just becomes this regeneration seed. And if you help it with everything else that you have done and help, when you mention even the food, for instance, that makes a huge difference because if you actually smoke, if you drink alcohol, if your body doesn't have enough minerals, vitamins, nutrition, then even though we stimulated the healing with shockwave, it's your cells that need that building blocks to actually do the repair. So it's shockwave. It's not one that fixes at all, but it's that regeneration seed that kind of gets things going, and we have the ability to reach so deep in the body, clean up scar tissues, adhesions, and all of that. So um, after your life changed, you could not practice anymore massage therapy,
yeah.
and then but all your professional experience, your personal experience with the accident, then you decided to become a health coach,
Yeah, I
correct?
became, after the first year of sleeping and watching Netflix and doing rehab, I realized I could not just sit and hold down the couch. I actually needed something to do. And I realized that what the professionals were telling me is that I would never be competitively employed again, because this body cannot stand too long. It cannot sit too long. It cannot walk too long. I need something that I create.
Yeah.
So I wanted an education where I could implement everything that I knew, because I've been in the alternative field since 96. So like that's 30 plus years, and I didn't want to just give all that up. So I decided to become certified in health and life coaching. So this is not just a, 2-week course, weekend course. It took me a year to become certified with health and life coaching. And then I did that for a little bit, and I'm like, well, that's boring. And I needed more. So at that time, I also learned about customization of supplements made for you based on your genetics. And so I started learning more about that and realized that there are certain genes that actually hold body pain more, that can be activated so that you don't have as much body pain. And let me tell you, that was a game changer, because I was able to get off of the narcotics because of just that gene activation that those supplements do. And I can't say that happens with everybody, because every supplement
Yeah.
is different. Like I'm not the same as you. You're not the same as me.
Yes. Yes.
Even
Yes.
like my kids are not the same as me. Right. So it is very different. But without that knowledge, I wouldn't have known, and I wouldn't have tried it, and I wouldn't have had the success. And then I was like, well, what else? And I knew about hormones, but I didn't know all of it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get educated in dried urine hormonal testing, because 75% of hormone studies are done on men, and 25% of hormonal studies are done on women and animals, because women are the same as animals. And what I was discovering was that there was a direct link to the amount of pain that women were in and their hormones. And new research coming out, actually it's not new, it started being researched in 2018, is that like traumatic brain injury, so what I talked about before,
Yeah.
mimics hormonal dysfunction and can cause that, and vice versa. So we have to treat them together. And then because I specialize with trauma, because I specialize with grief, this became a no-brainer to implement into my practice, because
Yeah.
if we're not treating the body as a whole, and if we're not doing comprehensive testing that is designed for women specifically, we're never going to get them results. We're never going to move them through what they're going through. And they get misdiagnosed with bipolar, they get misdiagnosed with anxiety, they get given sleep meds, they get told to reduce their stress. And that's not the problem. The problem is
Yeah.
hormonal imbalance and brain function. So they go hand in hand. So that's what I do now, is I actually coach women who
Okay.
believe that they have hormonal dysfunction, and we actually start getting down to the bottom of things and uncovering things. So a lot of health gurus will talk about treating the gut. Like everything starts in
Yeah.
the gut. And if you don't have a healthy gut, it's fine. Well, I can tell you that I've seen some results where there's a healthy gut. We can treat the gut all we want. It's not going to fix the liver, which I'm seeing is the problem. And that's what I see in my
Yeah.
testing. I see liver, I see hormones, I see adrenals, I see thyroid, I see melatonin, cortisol, cortisone, organic acids, and circadian rhythms. I see it all. And
Yeah.
then we can create more of a program for you that is designed for you. But I put everyone through a nutritional start while we're
Yeah.
waiting for those results. Because if your
So,
food
so,
is off,
so, so, what are some symptoms? Like, how does a person know, or what are some signs that you suspect, or that the hormones are off? Like, what does that look like?
big thing is brain fog. huge thing is brain fog, where like I can't think clearly, I can't make decisions, I feel like a fog, like, and I'm overwhelmed and I can't problem solve. Another thing can be unexplained weight gain. A lot of women are like, I don't know, I haven't changed anything and I'm gaining weight.
Yeah.
If you want to talk peri or menopause symptoms, then night sweats. Night sweats are a huge indicator that there is a hormonal imbalance and it can be fixed. We don't have to think we're crazy. We don't have to
Yes.
think that we lose short-term memory, and that's another thing. The longer you're in pain, every year that you are in chronic pain, you lose 11% of gray matter in your brain, which is equivalent to 10 years of aging. So when we're looking at hormonal imbalance and we're trying to treat them as a whole, right? And like pain levels, because if women have increased estrogen, we will experience more pain. If men have decreased testosterone, they will experience more pain. So it has to be treated together. It has to be treated as a whole, because otherwise we'll never get on top of it. And we're putting a Band-Aid here, we're putting a Band-Aid there, we're putting a Band-Aid there, and we're actually not fixing the system. Like everything is interrelated. So short-term memory loss, weight gain, night sweats, excessive moodiness. I know, like teenagers, I have teenagers. Okay, and I'm like, where are you? Where are you in your cycle? Because like this is not cool. Like all of those. But then I now know what they need. Oh, you're in your luteal phase, so this is what you need. Oh, you're in your menstrual phase, you need this. Oh, you're in your follicular phase, you need this, right? So I can support them better. So by helping women deal not only with their chronic fatigue, their short-term memory loss, their chronic pain, their night sweats. Oh, and throw in insomnia there, because we'll sleep, but only for a couple hours, and then we're wide awake because we have to solve world peace, right? Like when you ask for symptoms, the list is endless because not one woman is the same. And that's why we're not studied, because we're on such varying cycles. Unlike men who are on a 24-hour cycle day in and day out, women have 24 to 42-day cycles. So we have to be different. Our symptoms are different. The way we present is different. And unless we're getting the comprehensive testing that actually shows what's not normal for us, we don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting because okay, I'm just gonna throw this out there because I have this joke with Adelina, with my wife, where before her cycle, her hormones get a little bit off, and I say, "Oh my God, you were for 3 weeks mine, and now for 1 week you're of the devil." The devil took you, and
My
it's true.
my girls, they have nicknames, and I'm like, you're not Summer. Are you Jessica right now?
Yeah.
You're not River. Are you Emma right now? It's just,
Oh God.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's interesting because until recently, until I actually start educating myself more on the hormonal world, and just listening from even from you and other, you know, practitioners around the world. For example, frozen shoulder or shoulder problems. In the past, I would have, a woman showing up. It's like, I haven't injured my shoulder. I haven't done anything, but I have severe shoulder pain. We can see like turning into a frozen shoulder. There's no diabetes. There's no other indications at all. And so I could never understand why. But now I have an idea. I've learned, I educated myself that it's actually estrogen related. So I can help them, with shockwave all day to loosen up the joint capsule. But if they don't actually correct the hormonal, the cause, then even the shockwave is not going to help. Even the rehab is not going to help. So it's such a relief, at least for me, just to tell them, it's like, hey, you need to check. You need to check your estrogen level. You need to check your hormonal balance, because it's not just me here.
Yeah.
So
And can
it's
I
yeah.
explain? can I explain the difference between like a standard blood test versus using
Please.
blood
Yes,
urine?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Anything. Yes.
So remember how I said that most of the tests are done on men, right?
Yes.
So that's what the normal ranges are when you go for a standard blood test, is that they're comparing them to men. So that's mistake one. Okay. Mistake two is that when you go for a standard blood draw, it could sit on the shelf for half an hour. It could sit on the shelf for 4 hours until they get to it. Okay. It might even be a day or two before they get to it. So they're no longer using live blood when they take a standard blood draw. They're using dead blood. So then they're just looking at the serum of the blood, not what is actually getting into the cell, because the cell is deteriorated. It's no good anymore. What urine does is it actually is able to look at the metabolites and see what has been absorbed and see what has not. So this is a way better comprehensive draw, and we do 4 different samples throughout the day. So you're not just getting one, you're getting what are you doing in the morning? What are you doing in the mid-morning? What are you doing in the afternoon? And what are you doing in the evening? Right? And I love using cortisol as a really good example of this, because cortisol should be low first thing in the morning. So if you go for a standard blood draw first thing in the morning and you come back a little bit low, they're going to tell you, oh, you're normal. But maybe 2 hours from there, it's going to plummet instead of starting to peak. Then you're not normal anymore. And they would have no idea from that standard blood draw. With the urine, because we're taking 4 different samples and we're actually looking at what's getting into the cell and what you're methylating, which is detoxification, and what you're not, we're able to see what needs to be corrected. So that's the difference between standard blood draw versus using the urine. The urine is so much of a better indicator for women than
Yes.
what that blood draw is.
You know, Jodi, I'm gonna add. I learned this from a guy, Barton. He owns a supplement company out of states. I even forgot the name of supplement company. Anyway, and he does like even like hair test.
Yes, hair
And
analysis. Yeah.
exactly, and it's
Yeah.
interesting what he said to me, and it just dawned on me. It's like, wow, you're right here. He said, Uran, um, body does whatever it takes to
Mm-hmm.
keep the blood balanced and clean.
Yeah.
So what is off in the body, it's not going to show first in your blood. When
Yeah.
it shows in your blood, it's like it's already like
That's a
late in a way. It's
diagnosis.
like the
That
damage
is a
is exactly.
diagnosis. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so 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 it totally makes sense. Like urine, sweat, hair, like
Yeah.
external organs, like that's where you can actually see the reality of what is truly happening inside. And
And
and this, yeah, yeah,
that's an important part, right? Is typically it takes women 5 to 7 years to actually get a diagnosis, right? When we're using these alternatives, such as hair analysis, urine analysis, live cell analysis,
yes,
all of these things, they're not looking for a diagnosis. They're actually looking for what pathway are you going down that's going to lead to a diagnosis, right?
yeah,
You know, the diagnosis is when the wheels have already fallen off the bus.
yes,
The pathways are like, are the wheels starting to get wobbly? Are they starting to wiggle? Are they like almost falling off? Because we can do so much to slow things down or reverse even. And I'm not saying cure, because your body will
yes,
always want to go down the easiest pathways. And sometimes those pathways are illness, because it's hard work to be healthy, right?
yeah,
But we can slow things down. I had a client, she was borderline liver disease, borderline morbidly obese, borderline cardiac disease, borderline pre-diabetic, or not borderline, but pre-diabetic. And
very
she's like,
good,
okay,
yes,
Jodi, what do you got? And I'm like, oh, thank you, right? I had known this lady for 20 years. She finally decided to come to me. Within 6 months, her liver enzymes went down 16. points. She was no longer at risk for liver disease. She was no longer at risk for cardiac disease. She was no longer considered morbidly obese because she lost 30 pounds and is keeping it off and continuing to lose. And she's no longer pre-diabetic. Her doctor is amazed at how well she's doing, but doctors are taught to keep the body alive in crisis. They're not taught preventative, because when you have no legs or broken legs, they need to keep you alive, right? The alternative community is to keep you from needing to be kept alive.
It's more reactive care,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, and this is something that I always tell clients. It's like, we cannot treat your x-ray. You know, if there's a structural issue, yes, we know where it is, but even with that structural injury, there's still so many other components that
Yeah.
going to help that. So we have to treat you, so we cannot treat the label. So what kind of causes hormones to be off? Like, is or like daily things that we do, or is it age, or like from your experience, like what have you found?
Number one thing is nutrition. That's why I always start there, because we can do so much for nutrition. And really, I'm going to get on a soapbox here, and feel free to edit whatever you need to.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we get
The
these.
stage is yours.
Yeah. For so long we're told, like, oh, eat this way, eat that way, eat this way, eat that way. And we could be eating all of the right foods, but they're not the right foods for you. So I had a lady, she 95 pounds, didn't need to lose weight, anything like that. But her biggest complaint was fatigue. She was so tired all the time, couldn't think her way outside of a box. So we started with her nutrition. And within 4 weeks, she was like, I was feeling amazing. I was feeling great. And then I did this, and like, I don't know what I did. Like, I can't think my way. I got to go home. And I said, well, you mixed these two foods together that shouldn't have been mixed right now. Go and do this again. So then she took 3 days, got back to me and said, Jodi, it was the peppers. I cannot eat peppers with my eggs. Eggs are a healthy food. Peppers are a healthy food. But they were doing her harm, and harm so much that it was impairing her cognitive function. So we can be eating all of the right things, but they may not be eating the right things. So that's the first thing that I figure out with clients really quickly within the first 4 weeks. Then we get the urine results. And then that's when I can start decoding. So like, how much water are they drinking? How much nutrition are they having? What is their movement like? I can tell you whether you need to have more muscle mass based on your keratin results, right? I can tell you whether you're overhydrating. Like I said before, if the colon's not a problem, we don't need to treat the colon. We need to treat maybe the liver. We maybe need to treat a parasite infection, not an infection, but like an overrun of parasites in the body, which I can see in the urine. So these fad diets, when I get lab results, and I've had vegans, I've had carnivores, I've had Mediterraneans, I've had vegetarians, I've had paleo, like I've had them all. And I can tell you that when we go to extremism, the body will do everything it can to survive. So then you feel amazing and you're like, it's so great. But when I get the urine results back, it shows me that you are deteriorating, and that eventually it will catch up with you because you are now nutrient deficient. So the extremisms that we have been taught, or that are cited by professionals, I get very angry at, because they're actually causing huge hormonal dysfunction in a lot of women and men.
Yeah. See, it's we know it, like every healthcare provider out there is to help.
Yeah.
Public healthcare system, it's like, it's exploding. It's like bombarding. that like they don't have, physically the time. And I believe even the knowledge, to go this deep and figure out, because it's more, here you have the symptoms, here's the medication, instead of like trying to go and look further. So this urine test, it's like, what do you see there? Like, how many things can you see from there? What does it show typically?
Can I show a sample?
Hmm.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes,
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Oh, sorry, wrong button.
it's all good.
Okay. So if I scroll, can you see that I'm scrolling?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So this is what we see. So your creatinine, okay? So this is
Yep.
whether you're drinking too much water or whether you have need more muscle mass, right? So if we're really high, you're overhydrated. If you're really low, you need muscle mass. So that's number one. We see all of the estrogens. So here
Okay.
she's high, she's getting higher here. She's normal here, and then she's getting higher here. So they take a ratio. So I already know that this is an estrogen dominance. So she still gets her cycle. So I'm just looking at her luteal column. I am not looking at the postmenopausal column. If a
Okay.
woman does not get her period anymore and she is completely done, then I look at the postmenopausal column and I don't pay attention to luteal. So if I were to test a man, a man,
Yep.
they get one column. So men have estrogen, men have phase one metabolites, like they have everything that women do. They just get one column instead of two. So this is all your estrogen. I already know that she's showing estrogen dominance, and I know this because of her symptoms already. Insomnia, she can have a 20-minute nap and then be up for 4 hours. She's not sleeping at night. She's got night sweat. She's got moodiness. She's gaining weight. So I know that there's something going on. Why? Phase one is your liver metabolites. Okay. It is flat out pedal to the metal. Not okay. It's working so hard to keep up. So really this tells me that she's actually recirculating used up hormones back into the system because the body cannot keep up. And these are really interesting detox pathways because they're really healthy detox pathways, and then there are really unhealthy pathways. So the 16A has some duality where it's really good for bone growth, bad for cancer growth. So when we're looking at pathways, not diagnosis, but pathways, this is what I'm looking for. The 4OH is the most genotoxic pathway that you can have. This one is not a good pathway to use, and this is one of her main pathways that she's using. So I want to make sure that I am supporting that liver and actually forcing the healthier pathway, which is the 2OH. And then it takes the ratio between like the 16A and the 2OH and it gives that. So already I know that her liver needs support in order to help balance her estrogen. Her phase 2 metabolites, this is colon. This is what I'm talking about where like I could treat her colon all day long. This is a perfect colon. It's not going to help the liver. So she doesn't need probiotics. She doesn't need prebiotics. She doesn't need postbiotics. She needs liver support. So I'm very much of like, don't waste your money. Why are you taking
Yes.
something that your friend recommended or that like somebody else down the road says this product is amazing for me and it'll help you? You could be taking something that is just causing you to have really expensive urine actually when you go pee because like she doesn't need it. Right? Like
Yeah. Hey,
it's true.
does it look more goldish or no?
No, no, like it
No.
just, I wish, right? But yeah, like you're literally flushing your money down the toilet when you're taking things just off the shelf, not knowing if they're actually made for you. And like for estrogen dominance, you don't want to be taking a dim supplement. You want to be taking ashwagandha. And if you're low on estrogen, you don't want to be taking ashwagandha. You want to be taking a dim supplement. So many people out there like, just take this, just take that when you could actually be causing yourself more harm. So then we get into the the ratios of the top graph,
Yeah.
so I won't get into that. I can tell how your progesterone is, right? Progesterone is great for moods. It's great for stability. It's great for personality. This lady, no wonder she's freaking tired.
Yeah.
She's like really low. Like no, she should be in the 600s. She's 122, right? So I know that she needs a progesterone supplement. Androgens, glucocorticoids, and mineralocorticoids, these are all your stress hormones. These are all your cortisols. These are all your testosterone. This is all your adrenals. And look, she's low here, really high here. So we know if you're really low, this is chronic. This is chronic stress. Okay. Very hard life. When it's really high, we know that it's more acute and easier to fix. She's low here, low here, low here. Okay, so she's already kind of leaning towards more of a chronic stress state. Then she's low, she's getting low, 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 low. This is telling me that her adrenals, oh, guess what? She should be at least 105 and 92.
Yeah.
Like, she's off the charts here. So no wonder she feels like a chicken running with her head cut off. Like, she's got no energy reserves. Her adrenals are shot and she's got no stress response. So of course, everything is going to feel like a massive fire to her, something that she has to go solve and the world is falling apart. Same thing if this was a man. If I were to see this, I'd be like, you are under a lot of stress. Like, this has been a long time. This isn't just a few months. This is years of buildup, right? So this is like, you've led a really hard life. Let's start giving your body support. So I'm going to get her on an adrenal protocol and I'm going to get her on a liver protocol for sure. And the interesting thing that they don't teach in Western medicine is that the adrenals control thyroid, not thyroid controlling adrenals. So how many women are treated for thyroid issues? We start that one client that I said was borderline diabetic, obesity, liver disease, all that. She's been treated for thyroid for 20 years. We're starting to treat, we started treating her adrenals because that was one thing that was like a huge indicator. Her thyroid is self-correcting. So for 20 years, she has been misdiagnosed.
My God.
So this is like enzyme activity. So this is like PCOS, Hashimoto's, endometriosis. For men, it's premature baldness, it's obesity and insulin resistance in both genders. It can be testosterone related in men as well. So, and it can cause like benign prostate hypoplasia, which is like just enlarged prostates without like any concern. Cortisol, cortisone, right? Again, here's that stress, like really acute, like she's pedal to the metal. Now, remember how I said she wasn't sleeping? She's out of tube for melatonin. So normal levels are 17 to 84. No wonder she's not sleeping. So I'm going to get her on a sleep aid, not just melatonin, but I'm going to get her on a supplement that like helps the body relax, helps sleep come and help her stay asleep. I've seen it on the other opposite end of the spectrum where like they were over supplementing and they were in the 3000s because they were taking melatonin every day and wondering why. Yeah. And melatonin, they don't know long-term studies, but they do know that it causes short-term memory loss and they do not know if it can be rebuilt when you overdose on melatonin. So that lady who was in the 3000 thought she was going crazy every single day. I wonder why. So I get very angry when people just like, oh, take this, it helped me. Oh, it takes that, it helped me. And then thyroid, right? So because her adrenals are struggling so much, I'm not too worried about the low thyroid yet. I want to see if they will self-correct. If they don't self-correct, then I'm going to send her to her doctor and I'm going to say, get your thyroid levels corrected.
Yeah.
And then organic acid. These are all your vitamin Bs. So typically if you have a genetic mutation with MTHFR or MTRR, which I test for in a different test, if you have that, then these will be sky high and you will need a different supplement that is already methylated and broken down for you, because otherwise synthetic vitamin Bs will actually lead to a toxic soup, and you cannot have anything that is enriched or enhanced. So folate, we do not break that down if we have those genes, and then we're just creating more toxins in us if we think we need it and we take it. So like all those synthetic supplements that are made in the lab that like from synthetic sources, this, if you take the wrong vitamin Bs and you cannot break them down, can actually cause a manic episode. So test. Like I'm so much about like testing, don't guess,
And not
because
guessing.
yeah. And then we look into her journal. So I use this example of
Yeah.
cortisone. And so she's normal in the morning. So she would be normal if she went for a standard blood test. But instead of peaking, what is she doing? She's plummeting. So no wonder she feels like she needs a nap come 11 o'clock in the morning. And then when she should be going down and getting ready for sleep, she's peaking. So no wonder she can't sleep, when it's bedtime, and she's awake
Yes.
until 3 o'clock in the morning. So, and then we want cortisone to mirror cortisol, and she is mirroring. She is trying to mirror,
Yeah.
but she's not doing it in a very good way.
Yeah.
So we want to, adrenal protocol again is going to help support this. Getting her sleeping is going to help support this. Getting her liver functioning correctly is going to help support this. And then this is liver enzymes again. We want this to be a straight line because this is energy levels. This is not a straight line. This is the opposite of a straight line.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow, Jodi.
that's
Wow.
everything that you can tell in urine test. So much more comprehensive. So much more than what like a standard blood test can pick up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because as you're showing this, and this is my whole mission and the goal, and why we actually bring people like you to share your knowledge, your experience with everyone else, because health is the future. The health is the future worth funding.
Mm-hmm.
And there was so many things going in my mind, like how much is this test, for example? Like how much does it cost? Like $500, $1,000, like what it is? It's
Okay,
like
so I charge just for this test. No plan,
this,
no nothing, which I don't
nothing.
recommend. Okay, I don't
Yes.
recommend just testing without doing the nutritional piece while we're waiting, because otherwise it's so much information and so overwhelming you don't even understand. But
Yeah.
just for this test, I charge $600. So that's the lab piece, that's the kit,
Okay.
and then that's an hour and a half to 2 hour consult with me once we get the results, so that I can actually show you exactly what I'm seeing, come up with like treatments, give you suggestions, talk things out, make sure that everything is understandable. So I spend a lot of time going over that test. You just had a really short window of like what
I know,
everything,
I
I
know,
go
I
into
know, I know.
massive detail. Yeah.
But Jodi, you're still cheaper than a divorce lawyer.
I'm so much cheaper than a divorce lawyer.
And and this is where I was just thinking, like, sorry, like I have a lot of clients that are lawyers, like we just don't want the divorce to happen because of the hormonal imbalance, because of
Yeah.
the poor health. And this is something that, like, thank you for sharing that. But in my head, it's like, if people would check, if they would have this, done, it's, can you just imagine how much better the life would be? Like, how many things would be prevented? How many relations would be saved, how many families would be saved, how many generational traumas would be saved. It's because of the stress, because one hormone is off, because of the food, or because of the pain, or because of so many things. That stress, it's going to be in that family. That family, it will be, traumatized. And one thing that I found, and we know with epigenetics now, and DNA, it's our DNA, learns and memorizes, and it passes on.
Mm-hmm.
Like the impact that you're causing, like for your whole generations, could be, corrected or prevented or reduced. just with one, P test, or with one hormonal test, or with one simple thing that is designed more for treating the cause. So,
Well, and can I add, like, I know I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying, but I want to say that, like, a person has to want it. A person has to want it and be willing to do the work, right? Because I can recommend all the supplements. You can recommend all the treatments, right? But if you're not willing to actually go internal, and this is where like the life coaching really comes in, because if the life does not match what you're trying to do cellularly, time and time again, you will hit that glass ceiling and you will never break it. And then you'll
exactly.
say, well, it didn't work. No, it's because you didn't want it bad enough to stick with it and continue it. And that's why I say recovery is for life. I
Yeah.
can do these urine tests and I can see the pathways that you're going down. These pathways are what the body is going to want to revert back to if
Yeah.
you stop aligning your life and taking what you need to take. So like everybody's looking for a pill to do. Like, I'll take all of these supplements and I'll be fine, right? No, because your life is not matching. You might as well, then you're just going to have really expensive urine.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
when I work with people, it's like, are you in or are you out? Because if you're not willing to actually look at what you're doing I had this one lady, she was a raw vegan. And when I got her results back, and I say this very gently, but like, this is not figurative speak. She was slowly dying because she was not eating what she was designed to eat. And she had major nutrition deficiency. And if 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later, she would have deteriorated even more. And God knows what type of diagnosis she would have
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
right? And it was really hard because she believed she was doing everything right. She believed that this was the right choice. And I'm not one to say, well, you have to do this or you have to do that,
Yeah.
right? Like, but the labs don't lie. The DNA testing that I do that says you do better on a Mediterranean diet than you do keto, or you do better on a keto diet than a vegan diet, that's your genetics. Like, that's not some professional saying, oh, go paleo, right? Go keto.
Yeah.
That's genetic. You can't change that. So that's why I get really angry over like all these fads, or like, I'm just going to take this and everything will be fine, because you have to have the life that matches.
Jodi, and it's been hard for people, and I hear this every single day because you know there are so many health gurus out there that
Yeah.
became health gurus or experts or influencers just from social media
Yeah.
and putting things together. It's you and me, like what you do, it's not my expertise, but I've been over 20 years seeing cases, so start recognizing
Yeah.
patterns and all that. What you've been through yourself, you took all this studying. It's like your mom like did live blood
Yeah.
cell
Yeah.
analysis, right? Like
Yeah.
you grew up in a
I grew up in
family
that world.
where seeing
Yeah.
cells moving, what a clean blood looks like, what a
Yeah.
healthy cell functions, which is unbelievable. So now it's so many people out there, they get confused, they get stuck, and they probably give up because there's so many contradictory you know uh, advices.
Yeah.
And this can be, find the expert, find people that do the testing, the proper thing for you, because you are not, if there's one Jodi Harty, there's only one Jodi Harty. If there's
Yeah.
one Uran, it's just one Uran. There's no other one. I have
Yeah.
so many people, that come in, and I've treated over, like I've done over 40,000, shockwave treatments. It's all based on word of mouth, because people would come in and say, it's like, oh, you treated my friend, you treated my husband, it helped a
Mhm.
lot. them, so I expect the same thing. I just tell them, it's like, I'm going to give
Obviously.
my best. I'm going to
Yeah.
do everything I can, but you're completely different biology. So
Yeah.
everything that you do out there, like whether it's like a physical pain, whether it's like hormonal, everything, every symptom that you're looking, look what is right for your biology. So it's
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it is. And I'm going back to the beginning of this podcast because I wanted to know what was that force, that kept you going. What was that spark? What was I don't know how to even call it, like that energy that helped you recover? And you answered, you said it was me. So it's not the government, it's not the doctor, it's nobody out there. It's you. You are the CEO of your own health. You are responsible for your own health. It's nobody's fault. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have actually one more question to close this, because we can go all day talking about
All day.
a lot of things. But if Marley were here today, what do you think she would say about the strength that you've shown?
You ran. She would say thank you. She would say thank you for rising up. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for not accepting the status quo. Thank you for always looking to be better and never stopping.
Yeah,
You asked it, not me.
yeah, I know, I know, I know, I know. I had to ask it for everybody who has been so far, with us,
Mm-hmm.
and to truly see that everything that we are bringing here to the table is just our personal expertise to help you wherever you are. And we're going to put actually in our show notes here the link to your website, your contact, so anybody in the world, because you can help people, even virtually. So if they're locally here in Edmonton, Alberta, that's even better. But yeah, they have a resource that can change their life
Yeah.
completely. And yeah. So, Jodi, thank you again for your time, for your expertise. Thank you for being part of our team and just bringing your unique ability to Unpain Clinic. So,
Thank you so much for having
yeah,
me and inviting me.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Jodi. Thank you.
You're welcome.